We're delighted to have with us Melanie Kirkpatrick, who is a journalist, a writer, senior fellow at the Hudson Institute. She was deputy editor of the editorial page of the Wall Street Journal, lives in rural Connecticut, has written a brand new book published by Encounter Books called Escape from North Korea, The Untold Story of Asia's Underground Railroad. Melanie, welcome to American Family Radio.
Thank you. It's good to be with you.
You know, I picked up your book and I have been looking through it, and it occurred to me that I don't know of any other book that actually talks about people trying successfully to get out of North Korea. Tell us, how did you get involved with the whole concept of the Underground Railroad and people trying to escape from North Korea?
I worked for the Wall Street Journal for 29 years, and I covered everything there during my years on the editorial page. But this was the story that really captured my heart. At some time in the late 90s, I started hearing about North Koreans who had escaped to China, fleeing famine. And then in the early 2000s, I started hearing about those North Koreans who had reached safety in South Korea. And I looked into who was helping them and discovered that it was this unlikely combination of brokers, that is, human traffickers who were in it for the money, essentially, and Christians, including Chinese Christians who locally helped them, and then Americans and South Koreans who would go to China and secretly help North Koreans. It's a crime to help a North Korean in China, and yet these people risk a lot to do so.
Give us, just as a place to begin, can you give us an example, a story? How I think part of the problem we Americans have is we can't even conceive. I don't think we have a frame of reference of what life is like in North Korea. We're so used to life in America, so we can't even imagine the repression inside North Korea. What's it like inside the country, and give us a scenario of how this works, of people getting out.
You're absolutely right. One of the things that these people who've escaped have done is educate the world about the reality of life in North Korea. Before that, we had no idea because aid workers and journalists usually were limited to visiting Pyongyang. But now all these ordinary people have gotten out and are telling their stories. Let me give you just a couple of examples. I interview and tell the story in Escape from North Korea, the story of the first pianist of the Pyongyang Symphony Orchestra. And he fled to China. Why? Because he was about to be reported for the crime of playing jazz. Jazz is banned in North Korea. You can understand why, because it requires creative thinking and thinking, on your own, independent thinking. So that's one example. Another example, and it's a very powerful one, is food. People flee, North Koreans flee to China looking for food. It's as simple as that. And why are they looking for food? It's not only because of the food shortages in North Korea, but it's because the Kim family regime uses food as a political tool. That is, it reserves the food for the people it feels are politically loyal. And those who they deem disloyal or, not, or hostile is the word they use for the Kim family regime, are denied food. So those people have to flee to China if they're going to live.
Boy, this is Tim, Melanie. Thanks for being on with us. It's bad when you have to flee to China.
Yeah.
I mean, you really,
well,
escape to communist China.
Yeah, well, that's a very good point. China, of course, has developed over the past 30 years in a way that has created a limited measure of freedom for its citizens. And to North Koreans, however, it looks like paradise. Imagine people, there are markets there. People can practice their religion in China, albeit with some restrictions. But it's very different than North Korea, and I think that this is having a profound effect in North Korea itself because they learn about what life is like in China and ask, why can't we have the same thing in our country?
We're talking to Melanie Kirkpatrick. The title of her book is called Escape from North Korea, The Untold Story of Asia's Underground Railroad. And the book is published by Encounter, and we'll tell you how to get it when we get back from the break. But if you want to do a search, it's Melanie Kirkpatrick. Where do we want to go when we get back? What do you want to ask Melanie?
Let's talk about the state of the Christian church in North Korea and this unusual alliance between traffickers and Christians to help people out.
We'll be back after this short time out. You're listening to the radio program Today's Issues on the American Family Radio Network.